So, hello and welcome to A Carl-Schurz Christmas. I'm Ashley Mateos, and today I'm going to read to you a little story called The Gift of the Magi by O.Henry. It was written around 1905, and it is a short story based in New York. $1.87. That was all. She had put it aside, 1 cent, and then another, in her careful buying of meat and other food. Della counted it 3 times, $1.87. And the next day would be Christmas. She stood by the window and looked out with no interest. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she had only $1.87 for which to buy Jim a gift. Suddenly, she turned from the window and stood before her looking-glass. Her eyes were shining brightly, but her face had lost its color. Quickly, she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its complete length. Jim and Della were very proud of 2 things which they owned. One thing was Jim's gold watch. It had once belonged to his father, and, long ago, it had belonged to his father's father. The other thing was Della's hair. So now Della's beautiful hair fell about her, shining like a falling stream of brown water. It reached below her knee. It almost made itself into a dress for her. And then she put it up on her head again, nervously and quickly. Once she stopped for a moment and stood still while a tear ran down her face. She put on her old brown coat, she put on her old brown hat, and with the bright light still in her eyes, she moved quickly out the door and down the street. Where she stopped, the sign said, Mrs. Safrani, hair articles of all kinds. Up to the 2nd floor Della ran, stopped to get her breath. Mrs. Safrani, large, too white, cold-eyed, looked at her. "Will you buy my hair?" asked Della. "I buy hair," said Mrs. Safrani. "Take your hat off and let me take a look at it." Down fell the brown waterfall. $20, said Mrs. Safrani. "Give it to me quick," said Della. And the next 2 hours seemed to fly. She was going from one shop to another to buy a gift for Jim. She found it at last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. There was no other like it in any of the shops, and she had looked in every shop in the city. It was a gold watch chain, very simply made. As soon as she saw it, she knew that Jim must have it. It was like him, quietness and value. Jim and the chain both had quietness and value. She paid $21 for it, and she hurried home with the chain and 87 cents. When Della arrived home, her mind quieted a little. She began to think more reasonably. She started to try to cover the sad marks of what she had done. Love and large-hearted giving, when added together, can leave deep marks. It is never easy to cover these marks, dear friend. Never easy. At 7, Jim's dinner was ready for him. Jim was never late. Della held the watch chain in her hand and sat near the door where he always entered. Then she heard his step in the hall, and her face lost color for a moment. She often said little prayers quietly about simple, everyday things. And now she said, "Please, God, make him think I'm still pretty." The door opened and Jim stepped in. He looked very thin, and he was not smiling. Poor fellow, he was only 22, and with a family to take care of. He needed a new coat, and he had nothing to cover his cold hands. Jim stopped inside the door. His eyes looked strangely at Della, and there was an expression in them that she could not understand. It filled her with fear. It was not anger, nor surprise, nor anything she had been ready for. He simply looked at her with that strange expression on his face. Della went to him. "Jim, dear," she cried. "Don't look at me like that. I had my hair cut off and sold it. I couldn't live through Christmas without giving you a gift. My hair will grow again. You won't care, will you? My hair grows very fast. It's Christmas, Jim. Let's be happy. You don't know what a beautiful, nice gift I got for you." "You've cut off your hair?" asked Jim slowly. He seemed to labor to understand what had happened. He seemed not to feel sure he knew. "Cut it off and sold it," said Della. "Don't you like me now? I'm me, Jim. I'm the same without my hair." Jim looked around the room. "You say your hair is gone?" he said. "You don't have to look for it," said Della. "It's sold, I tell you. Sold and gone, too. It's the night before Christmas, boy. Be good to me, because I sold it for you. Maybe the hairs on my head could be counted, she said, but no one could ever count my love for you. Shall we eat dinner, Jim? Jim put his arms around his Della. Then from inside his coat, he took something tied in paper and tossed it on the table. I want you to understand me, Dell, he said. Nothing like a haircut can make me love you any less. But if you'll open that, you may know what I felt when I came in. White fingers pulled off the paper, and then a cry of joy, and then a change to tears. For there lay the combs. The combs that Della had seen in a shop window and loved for a long time. She had known they cost too much for her to buy them. She had looked at them without the least hope of owning them, and now they were hers. But her hair was gone. She held them to her heart and at last was able to look up and say, "My hair grows so fast, Jim." And then she jumped up and cried, "Oh, oh!" Jim had not yet seen his beautiful gift. She held it out to him in her open hand. The gold seemed to shine softly as if with her own warm and loving spirit. "Isn't it perfect, Jim? I hunted all over the town to find it. You'll have to look at your watch 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how they look together." Jim sat down and smiled. "Della," he said, "let's put our Christmas gifts away and keep them a while. They're too nice to use now. I sold the watch to get the money to buy the combs, and now I think we should have our dinner." Now, here I have told you the story of two children who were not wise. Each sold the most valuable thing they owned in order to buy a gift for the other. But let me speak a last word to the wise of these days. Of all who give gifts, these two were the most wise. Thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to read the book yourself, you're welcome to check it out from our library. Happy holidays, everyone.